Welcome to Santa Cruz, USA. Thanks for joining me, Mark Mills. Tonight we have an interesting game for you. Both the USA and Cuba continue on their 2019 FIBA World Cup qualification. Their first qualification win could not have been different as the USA enter the game unbeaten, whilst Cuba are still looking for their first win of qualification. This is game 3 of what could be a 12-game road to the FIBA World Cup finals in China next year. And all is set for yet another interesting night of international basketball. The fans are ready for it, and hopefully you guys at home are ready for it too. Plenty of energy here in the G League Santa Cruz Warriors home arena. And it's been a busy night. In fact, it's been a busy 24 hours of basketball in the world. Across the globe, there's been qualifiers. But here in Group C of the Americas Qualifiers, there's 2 games this evening. Mexico currently taking on Puerto Rico. At the moment, there's a minute left in the final quarter, and Puerto Rico are leading that one 97-76. And then the entire day of World Cup qualifiers around the world finishes off here in Santa Cruz as the USA welcome Cuba. And what a group Group C is. The USA at the moment top the group, 2 wins, no losses. As things are going in Mexico at the moment, it looks like Puerto Rico will break clear of Mexico. They'll go on a 2-1 record at the end of today, and Mexico will sit on a 1-win, 2-loss record. And who knows where Cuba will be at the end of tonight's game. But at the moment, they prop up the group without a win to their name. So that is Group C for you. And it's all part of the new system to qualify for the World Cup. The 2019 FIBA World Cup has seen a revolution of international basketball, and the introduction of the new qualifying process has brought more basketball to more fans around the world more often. It really has reinvigorated international basketball around the world, and the fans have really embraced seeing their teams playing on home soil more often. At the moment, the Americas, there's 16 teams that are trying to qualify for 7 spots, and every player is giving their all for their country. As our visitors are introduced to the crowd, Cuba definitely the outsiders here in Group C, but as already shown, they're not here to make up the numbers. First qualifying game against Mexico in Lyon was close, with Cuba only going down 72-66. They weren't able to keep that level up for their other game in the window, though, being dismantled by Puerto Rico, losing by 23 points in that one. They don't really have a vast World Cup history. However, they've only appeared 4 times. Last time was back in 1994, where they finished 15th in Canada. That said, they did pick up wins against Korea and Angola twice, and they'll be targeted to pick up at least 1 win in this qualification process and try and make their way through to the second phase. The form suggests that might be unlikely at the moment to come tonight here against the USA, but the Cubans will no doubt be approaching this game with a nothing to lose attitude. And I think everyone that knows basketball knows that can be a dangerous thing indeed. So the Cubans are on the floor, and we're just waiting for the home team, Team USA, to be introduced. And what can you say about the USA? They're one of the most prestigious basketball countries, and on the international stage, they really are second to none. You look at their World Cup medal count, it totals 12, 5 golds, 3 silvers, 4 bronze. They've won the last 2 World Championships and will be accepting nothing less than the top step of the podium in China next year. That said, the qualification process introduced has presented their programme with a bit of a curveball. They're utilising the ever-improving G League to provide them with the majority of their roster. In fact, tonight it provides their entire roster. But this still brings a very high level of talent, partnered with an individual point to prove for each of these players, as they take some pride in wearing the USA jersey. They're obviously led by one of the most experienced coaches in world basketball, in Jeff Van Gundy. He's coached throughout the NBA and he's respected the world over, and he really has shown what he can do with players in such a limited period of time that he's had with these guys here. He's got them performing well. He'll be frustrated, however, that he has to pretty much select a new roster for each window, as the players he's selected, many of them have been called up to the NBA. But he's still performing well. We're just minutes away from tip-off, but before we get to that, we're going to have the national anthems of both teams. First, the national anthem of Cuba.
For our national anthems, we will start with the anthem of Cuba. And now remain standing for the national anthem of the United States.
Stirring renditions of both national anthems there. Sets the scene for an exciting evening of international basketball here in Santa Cruz. And we are set for a big battle between Cuba and the home team, USA. The form book would suggest that the USA are firm favourites for this. But when national pride is on the line, it motivates and improves players beyond belief. So Cuba will fancy their chances. And here are our officials for this evening's game. We'll just take you across the officiating team here in Santa Cruz. And that is Michael Viland from Canada, Carlos Peralta from Ecuador, and Andrea Silva from Brazil. So they're the officials that will be controlling play this evening on the hardwood of Santa Cruz Warriors home court. And what a game we have in store for you here as we close out another full day around the world of international basketball. Games across the globe, uniting people all for the love of basketball. And what a great spectacle these new World Cup qualifying windows are. Here is your Cuba roster. Looking at the roster, you have to make note of Javier Justiz. Put up 23 points and 17 rebounds per game in window one. And his front-court partner of Rivera also stepped up, combining for 36 points across those two opening qualifiers. Both of them play in the top league in Argentina, and they're going to be relied on heavily. In the starting five, they'll be joined by Guzman, Molina, and Oliva. And that's the team for Brazil. They're in for a battle this evening, that's for sure. And this is the team they're going up against in the States. Coach Van Gundy, he's had the headache again of having only a very limited roster to pick from. Pretty much completely new roster, just one face returning, and that's mainly due to NBA call-ups for his previous selections. Continued to plunder the G League for his team, completely selecting his team from the G League. Understandable as well, getting a highly skilled level of player who have huge motivation to prove themselves on the biggest stage. This will enable the Americans to run a deep rotation and keep the pressure on Cuba for the full 40 minutes. Their starting five is Lee, Drew, Harrison, Williams, and Silas. That's a strong starting five, a lot of athleticism and quickness in that starting five. Running slightly small ball, as no doubt Coach Van Gundy will want to put them under pressure from the opening tip to see if they can open this game up nice and early against Cuba. Coach Zaldivar won't have to do much to motivate his team this evening. Biggest challenge is going to be channel that energy into a winning performance for Cuba. For Coach Van Gundy, you really don't get much more of an experienced helm in world basketball. Already shown how valuable he is to this new look USA, and we're moments from tip-off now as the ball is put up to the rafters and the USA secure the first possession in the hands of Drew. Quickly gets it to the wing. Can't get things underway the way they want it. Silas misses the open three to start things, and it's going to be a Cuban ball on the baseline. They advance it over the half. travelling violation has been called though, so that's the first turnover of the game, and the USA will get possession back. Silas feeds it into the low post to Williams. William hands it back out. Nice little two-man game going on there between Williams and Harrison floats the little right-hand teardrop and gets it to go. USA underway early. Oliva now running the point for Cuba. Big shot from outside, comes up way short with that one though. And USA will take the ball on the baseline. And Guzman couldn't get that one to drop. Harrison now at the top to Williams. Williams looking for options in front of him. He feeds it off to Drew. Drew drives inside, tries to get it back to Williams, but it's stripped away. But unfortunately, Molina steps out of bounds. Coach Van Gundy is so passionate about the national team program in the States. Puts his heart and soul into it. Really determined to represent his country as best he can. And instills that into whichever players he puts onto the hardwood. Just a quick clarification amongst the officials before we can get underway. Drew's going to inbound the ball for the USA. And he does, and it's a catch and shoot situation for Silas, and he gets that one to drop. He was inside the three-point arc though, so it's just a long two. USA to an early 4-point lead. Guzman now hands it off. Oh, nice. Cheeky little crossover there from Oliva. He can't get the jumper to go, and Williams pulls down the rebound for the USA. Oh, Drew behind the back, drives inside, kicks it to Williams. Williams fights with the right hand, and nothing but the bottom of the net for Williams. The USA really showing what they can do in the early stages, out to an early 6-point lead here. Molina shoots it from distance, and it's heavy off the iron. Drew back out at the races, but it's stolen away by Guzman. He'll return the favour. 3-on-1 transition. Feeds it to Oliva. Can't get it to go, but it falls into the hands of Molina. Molina can't get it to go either. Stolen away by the USA, and there's a bit of a scramble for the ball. And it falls ultimately to Alonzo G, who will get the lay-in. And Cuba will call the timeout as the USA storm into an early 8-0 lead. With just a little over 2 minutes gone in this one. No real surprise that Coach Zaldivar has called the timeout. Wants to talk things over with his team. Needs to make sure that they get back to the game plan and limit that transition basketball that the USA are so good at. So much athleticism and speed in their roster. They really don't want to get into a run and gun situation against the USA. And I'm sure Coach Van Gundy at the other end of the hardwood is just reiterating the pre-game plan. Keeping his guys calm, not letting them get carried away with an early 8-0 lead. There's a huge amount of time on the clock, and he'll want to make sure USA execute every second of that perfectly. This is the fourth meeting between the USA and Cuba. The last one, though, all the way back in 1989 in the Americas Cup. Bizarrely enough, the USA only just scraped away with a 95-92 win in that game. That said, the USA currently hold the record of a clean sweep over Cuba. Cuba are yet to record a victory against the USA. And who knows, tonight they might break that duck. It will go massively against the form book. But, that's international basketball for you. Molina now with the ball at the top. Drives to the basket strong, tries to put it up off the glass, but it's rebounded by G. He gets it back from Drew, goes in, kicks it to the corner, wide open Silas, hits another triple. Sorry, his first shot was only a 2, wasn't it? That takes him up to 5 points personal, though. And look how hard Drew is working, making it so difficult for Oliver to get over the half, and another mistake is made, and Guy comes away with the ball, gives it straight back to Harrison. He doesn't connect with the long jumper, and Cuba will bring it back at the USA. Molina now fakes a three. And whistle on the play, and the foul is called on Drew. Sideline ball now for Cuba as Molina inbounds it. Ball goes into the low post, and G gets into a battle with Rivero, and the foul is called. Rivera now at the top. Another quick foul called on Alonzo G. That's going to send him to the bench as Coach Van Gundy will make the change. Into the game for the first time is going to be Travis Ware. Big shot from Guzman. No joy there though, and the USA come back with it in the hands of Silas. To Williams, hands it off to Drew. Drew, little shake, steps back, drains the long two. And the USA really are putting Cuba to the sword early on. They've started with a 13-0 run, and Cuba really haven't had a sniff of a basket yet. Oliva puts up an air ball, and the USA rebound the ball in the hands of Ware, who hands it off to Drew. Silas now uses the Williams screen, drives inside, pulls up at the free-throw line. Can't get that one to go. And that's a big rebound by Justiz. Feeds the low post, Molina. A little bit heavy, getting closer though. Cuba starting to find a little bit more confidence on the offensive end. Harrison trying to battle his way to the basket, comes back out. And Silas steps up for the jumper and nails it. That extends it out to a 15-point lead now for the USA. Molina floats to the basket, and the foul is called. Here's their opportunity to break the duck. That foul on Travis Ware. That will send Molina to the line for two. He'll be hoping to at least hit one of them so he can break the seal on that basket after 4 minutes and 40 of action. Justiz has gone to the bench for Cuba, and into the game for the first time is Torres. And there we go, first points on the board for Cuba from the free-throw line. I'll get the second to go, and Williams pulls down the rebound for USA. USA also made a change with Stockton into the game for his first experience of the action. Pick and roll with Williams, skips it back to Ware. Ware for three. A little bit light and to the left with that one. Molina now floats to the basket but kicks it back out. Should have taken the shot there. In drives Torres, and he's fouled as he plows his way to the basket. And Torres now at the line for two. Uses the front of the ring to his advantage there and connects with the first. Stockton now with the ball. Brings it up over the half for USA. That's a tough move from Purvis. Found his way to an open shot and makes Cuba pay. Rodriguez finds a flashing Guzman, but he can't connect, and the USA will come away with it in the hands of Silas. And Ware can't control the ball at full pace, and that's the sign of the man, Coach Van Gundy. They're up by 14, but he doesn't want to see those mistakes. It's all about striving as hard as you can for perfection in his mind, and that's what he's going to ask of his team as Silas takes a seat on the bench. And Lee comes into the game for the first time for USA. Molina from the outside, no joy, and Ware grabs the rebound for USA. And Purvis puts the Jets on as he drives to the basket, floats it high off the glass. It's come off a USA leg, so it's going to be a Cuban ball. As I said before, Lee checks into the game for the first time, actually checks back onto his home court as part of the G League Santa Cruz Warriors. This is his home arena. So I'm sure there's plenty of fans in the crowd that will be cheering him on specifically tonight for the USA. Torres from outside. Comes up short. Ware with another rebound. Stockton weaving his way inside. Outside to Ware for three. He's a little bit light on that one, and Cuba come away with it in the hands of Rivero. Molina now, back to Guzman. Guzman feeds it into Rivero. And gets the two to go. That's a nice back to the basket move from Rivero. Down to a 12-point lead now for the USA with just a little under 3 minutes left to play in this first quarter. Stockton feeds Williams inside. Oh, big rejection there. Great defensive rotation by Rivero. Oh my goodness me, back-to-back big plays by Rivero. A block at one end on Williams and then a three at the other. Great play by Yasiel Rivero. Purvis now for USA in a horn set on the offensive end. Comes back to Ware. Ware's going to hand it off to Stockton. Stockton, little hesitation, tries to find the lane. That's great defense there by Rodriguez. Made sure he stayed in front of Stockton the whole time. A little bit unaware there, Stockton, of the shot clock running down. But here's a replay of the strong move by Rivero in the low post, followed by the big block. And then he finishes off the three big plays with the triple. And he leads the Cuban scorers with 5 points. Mencia now to the basket, floats it up, can't get it to go. And Thomas grabs the rebound. USA player Purvis hits the ground hard. Sounded worse than it was. It's right in front of one of the courtside microphones, so it really sounded bad. Cameraman there perfectly positioned to see that action up close. Stockton gives it up to Purvis, and Thomas runs a pick and roll with Purvis. Purvis, a couple of hesitation dribbles. Manages to find some space with Eustace, but can't get the jumper to go. Mencia now. That's a tough move going to the basket. Rivero, his luck runs out, and USA bring it back with speed the other way in the hands of Stockton. Purvis wide open for three. He's way short with that one. Cuba ball. Purvis will head to the bench for the USA. Roque now for Cuba into the game as well. Rivero looks to feed Eustace down low, but that's strong work by Thomas as he intercepts the ball for the USA. Nice ball movement. Stockton for three. Comes up short. Can't get it to go. It's going to be a foul called on Rivero as Ware went to crash the boards hard and Rivero impeded him there. Great ball movement by the USA. Stockton really needs to nail that three though. And Rivero clear there, pulling on the arm of Ware as he tried to get to the ball. Just waiting for a couple of substitutions to take place before we get the game underway, and Rivero will head to the bench after that foul. Just over a minute to play here in the opening quarter, and Stockton inbounds it to Lee. Oh, comes up short on that one. Mencia now battles his way to the basket off the glass. Can't quite get that one to go, but Justice grabs a rebound, fades away, but he's way too high and heavy on his jumper. Stockton, hesitation on the dribble, floats inside, and he's fouled. He's earned himself a trip to the free-throw line for 2 shots. And Pedro Roque picks up his first foul. Connects with the first. And the second. And David Stockton really doesn't need much introduction. I'm sure he's tired of hearing it, but obviously the son of NBA Hall of Famer John Stockton, famous of the Utah Jazz, part of the big man combination with Karl Malone. Legendary status for him, and I'm sure his son David Stockton will want to try and fill his shoes as best he can. Shot goes in and out, and the USA come away with it in the hands of Harrison. They're going to slow things down and look to take the final shot of the first quarter as Harrison hands it off to Stockton. Looking to run a flat 4, and then Thomas will come up and set the screen for a pick and roll at the top. Stockton pulls up for the long 2 and drains it, nothing but net. You could see it in his eyes, he had that plan all along, and that's a strong way for the USA to finish the first quarter. They lead this one 21-8. Impressive first quarter of action here in Santa Cruz as the USA hold a commanding 13-point lead. They got out to a huge lead to start with. They're up by 13 points now, but they went to a 15-0 start to the game. And Cuba have worked hard to fight their way back into this game, but they have really on the back of 3 big plays from Yasiel Rivero. He's hit a triple, hit a jumper, and on top of that had a huge block on the defensive end, so it's a great start to the game for him. For the USA, their scoring has been led by Xavier Silas. He's got 7. And had a strong start to the game. As you can see, the scoring percentages really don't lie. The USA dominating 58% shooting from 2. And they're also leading the rebounding battle at the moment as well. They're moving the ball well, and Coach Van Gundy will be happy with the team ethos. That said, Coach Valdivar won't be too upset with Cuba. They could have easily folded after such a slow start to the game, but they've come back in and they fought hard to reduce the deficit, and they have, so they're back in this one. The USA really do have an awful lot of talent on their roster, and you just wonder how much Cuba have in the tank to keep up with them for 40 minutes. Oh, that was a huge foul there. Watching that in replay made it even worse. And here we are for the second quarter of action in Santa Cruz. USA have a 13-point lead. Oliva is struggling and he's called for the offensive foul. Really unable to contain the pressure from the USA there. Braun will inbound it to Thomas, and Thomas will bring it up over the half for the USA. And give it back to Stockton, who will get the offense running. Lee now for the USA. Spin move, steps back, beautiful move. Way too much on the fade away though, so made this shot very difficult indeed. Harrison will put the three up instead, and a battle under the basket for Braun to fight, and he's been fouled in the process, so it's going to be a sideline ball for the USA. Stockton now puts it in for Lee. Lee finds a great pass inside to Braun, and Braun is the lucky recipient of the pass because he gets an easy 2 off the glass and opens his account for the evening. Foul's called on Stockton after he applies a little bit too much pressure to Oliva. And Thomas will go to the bench for the USA. Purvis will also check back into the game for the USA as well. And he replaces Lee. Foul is called on Braun. That's his first personal. Second team foul of the quarter for the USA. A little under a minute played. Both teams already picked up 2 early fouls. That's a big shot from the perimeter for Valdez. He can't get it to go though, and the USA will use it to trigger their fast break. Nice pass back into play, and another big rejection for Cuba. As Javier Justiz gets into the block party spirit. Offensive foul is called on Justiz, using his elbow to establish position in the low post. But here's the block that he gets on Williams. The USA ultimately will end up with the ball, and they're sitting with a 15-point lead now as Stockton advances it. And there's some scrappy fouls going on, and Cuba, with only just over a minute and a half of this second quarter gone, have already burnt their 14 fouls. Every time they foul now, the USA are going to head to the line for 2 shots. Ball inside to Williams. Williams tries his hardest to get a shot away. Almost came off his elbow to get that shot away. He was under so much pressure. Another off the ball foul. The officials are really calling this one tightly. And as long as they keep a uniform level of consistency, the players really can't complain. They're being told how it's going to be refereed. Valdez now inbounds it to Martinez. Cuba quickly recycle the ball back to the top. Justiz receives it back at the free-throw line, flies inside and gets a really difficult fade away off the glass, and takes Cuba up to 10 points now. Stockton floats inside, high off the glass, doesn't quite get the roll, but that doesn't matter with Williams around. He'll get the putback tip in and get 2 points for himself. Tough shot by Olive, gets it to drop though. That's his first bucket of the game on his 4th attempt. Stockton, beautiful turn, floats inside, teardrop, no joy. Purvis tries to fly through for the hammer dunk, but can't get it to go. And Cuba will bring it back the other way. Martinez now feeds Justiz in the post. He'll pull the trigger on a long 2. You get a feeling that that's his shot. A mid-range jumper off the glass. Always awkward to defend a lefty jump shooter. Reduces the deficit to just 11 now. Oh, that's a beautiful move. As Braun floats to the basket for the finger roll off the glass. Eustace now double teamed and almost stripped away. Hard inside they go. Looked like a clean block for Purvis, but the officials have said that it hit the glass already, so it's going to be goaltending and basket interference, so that's going to be 2 points for Cuba, and in particular 2 points for Valdez. That's a great spot by the officials. In real time, that moves so quickly. It's so difficult to make that distinction, but the officials have got that spot on. Great call. Drew now with the ball. Skips it to the corner to Silas. Silas looks for the cuts, finds the cut of Ware, and Ware hits that cheeky little mid-range jumper. And USA quickly extend their lead back up to 13. Tough shot from outside, and the board is battled for. USA ultimately secure it though with a little bit of teamwork. Ware wide open for three. Can't get that one to drop yet. USA only shooting 31% from, 20% from the perimeter so far tonight. And Oliva really forces the action there, drawing the foul from Drew. Sometimes what's needed when you're on the back foot like Cuba are here, let a player take control and slightly force the action on the offensive end. He's going to go to the line for 2 shots. Nothing but the bottom of the bucket for the first. Back at the line for his second attempt. Drains that one as well. Perfect from the line, Oliva, and Cuba drop into a slight zone press. I think that's going to be a mistake, and Silas instantly makes them pay for that. Not the kind of team you want to drop into a zone press. They have athleticism and IQ to beat a press defense quite easily. Unusual to see Coach Zaldivar fall for something so simple. Hopefully it's not going to be applied too often. Valdez tries to get himself to the basket, but it's hustled away from him by the USA. And Drew is fouled as he tries to split the defenders. And that foul's going to be called on Oliver. And here's the triple from the corner for Silas. It's a beautiful sight, wonderful form on the shot there from Xavier Silas. And that foul will send Drew to the line for 2 free throws. Connects with the first of the 2. And the second. And Cuba will make a couple of changes to their roster as Valdez and Martinez go to the bench. Molina's back into the game. Oliva now with the ball at the top. Gives it to Eustace. Eustace feeds it off to Guzman. Guzman trying to find some space inside. Has to take a tough left-hand shot, but Eustace will get the loose ball. Can't quite control it. Comes off his leg and straight out of bounds. So it's going to be a USA ball on the baseline. Quick ball movement by the USA again. And Silas floats inside this time. Goes to put it off the glass. Can't get it to go. Williams has travelled there. Couldn't quite secure the rebound cleanly. It slips out of his hands and forces him to travel. But the USA sit with a healthy 16-point lead. 4:41 left to play in the second quarter, and they are up 34-18 over the visitors, Cuba. I'm sure Coach Van Gundy will be reasonably happy so far. A few mistakes that will probably be niggling at him, but outside of that, a reasonably strong performance by his team. Olivar uses the Rivero screen, pulls the trigger on a long three. Olivar comes up short, but Williams spills the rebound, and Molina will gratefully pull in it. And this time it's intercepted by the USA. Oh, eye of the needle type of pass. And grateful recipient there is Purvis. Gets himself a bucket. Takes his personal tally up to 5 points in the evening. Shooting 2 from 5 so far. Guzman now moves the ball to Molina, who goes to the basket strong, and Eustace gets into a battle with Williams for the rebound. Drew gives it away though for the USA, and a slightly scrappy phase of play for both teams at the moment. Oliva now. Going to feed the low post, is he? No, he's going to hold on to it as the low post is double teamed at the moment. Drives inside, skips it to the corner. Molina will drive inside himself. A little bit too heavy with that one, and it's going to be a USA ball on the baseline. Not a pretty phase of basketball for either team in the last minute or so. Neither team really playing any form of productive basketball at the moment. But the USA currently double Cuba's score, leading this one 36-18. Drew will advance the ball over the half. And a wide open jumper for Harrison in the corner, but he can't connect, and Cuba will try and exploit some transition basketball, but nothing there. Guzman will shoot the three and throws up an air ball straight out of bounds. USA now bring the ball up over the half in the hands of Drew, and it's off the foot of Guzman, straight into the chest of the official. Didn't even flinch. And it does add to the argument that maybe the officials are actually androids, maybe they are robotic after all. He didn't even flinch as a ball zipped off someone's foot at him, probably about 40, 50 miles an hour. They made a tough stuff, these FIBA officials, that's for sure. Stockton now, pick and roll actions with Thomas. Oh my goodness me, went to flush that with authority. It's off a Cuba hand, so it's going to be a USA ball, but that would have been a huge highlight play for Thomas. Look at this pick and roll action, nice pass from Stockton, and Thomas goes up for the left-handed jam over Eustace, and that really is a battle of the bigs. Eustace did enough to put him off though. Good defense in the end, but ultimately not enough as Stockton hits the triple from the corner, extending the lead out to 21 points for the USA now. And Rodriguez takes what looks like a difficult shovel shot with his right hand, but he's fouled. Gets a get out of jail free card on that one, and he'll go to the line for 2 shots. Rodriguez connects with the first of his 2. And the second. That will send Rodriguez to the bench. Reduces the deficit to 20 points in favour of the USA. 2:23 left in the second quarter here in Santa Cruz, home of the Santa Cruz Warriors of the G League. Stockton now to Silas. Little shake and bake, finds some space, but good defence by Cuba in the end, and the ball is stripped away. Molina receiving attention from Silas, and Eustace turns the corner, looks to feed it inside and does. It's an easy 2 off the glass for Torres. Stockton to Ware. Ware comes back to Silas. Silas will shape up against Torres. Great hands by Torres there. Reach around the back and flicks the ball away to Justice, and Cuba will break with the hands of Molina to Guzman. Short on the three and doesn't get the roll on the iron. Bright spark of play there for Cuba. Stockton just floats in high with the right hand, but doesn't quite get the soft touch. Justice throws an unbelievable pass the full length of the court, and you'd have to be Usain Bolt to catch that one. Timeout has been called. 1:02 left in the first half. USA lead this one comfortably, 39 to Cuba's 22, and Coach Van Gundy wants to talk things over with his team in the closing stages of this first half. And we hope you're enjoying coverage of the 2019 FIBA World Cup qualifiers. Remember, if you want to keep up with all the action, you need to download the FIBA World Cup app. It'll give you all the latest news and views and videos and all the stats you could ever want around the World Cup. It's available on both Android and Apple, so you have absolutely no excuse as why you haven't downloaded it already. But if you haven't, I'll let you off. And you've got to the end of the night to download it now. Let's hear what Coach Van Gundy has to say in the huddle. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have the sound in the huddle there for Coach Van Gundy, but it looked like a reasonably calm huddle and more a timeout, just because he had some sitting there burning a hole in his pocket just to take a bit of a rest for his guys, hit a reset button, maybe channel them in a different direction, or have a couple of plays that he wants to run in the closing minute of this first half. And USA will get things underway after the timeout, with Willis checking into the game for the USA for the first time this evening. Stockton now back to Willis, open for three. Off to the right and short with that one. An awkward looking shooting style there for Derek Willis. I'm sure it's effective though in his own way. There's an awful lot of controversy about shooting mechanics at the moment in basketball. Rodriguez forces things a little bit there for Cuba, and they're going to be made to pay for it as the ball goes inside to Devon Williams, and he gets the easy two from about 1 foot. And we're into the final possession of the first quarter. There's less than a second differential between the game clock and the shot clock. Justice now to Molina. Rodriguez fights his way to the top and gains possession inside to Justice. Justice, oh, one-handed jam, throws that down with some power. Not a lot the front court of the USA could have done there. He is a big, big man indeed, Javier Justice. .1 seconds left. Willis has possession of the ball, gives it up to Stockton. Will he get a shot away? He will. Will it go in? Oh, it looked like it was going to be close, but he doesn't get it to go. And as the teams head for the locker room at the half, USA sit with a comfortable 41-24 lead over Cuba here in Santa Cruz. I'm sure Coach Van Gundy will be pretty happy with how the USA have dealt with this so far. They've got a commanding lead, and Silas leads them on the scoring fronts with 10 points. Cuba have fought quite hard, and they've had glimmers of some great phases of basketball. They just need to string a few more together to get back into this one. And at the moment, it really is Justice leading them. 6 points, 7 rebounds so far for the big man in a little over 17 minutes of action. But the first 20 minutes has gone without a hitch as far as the USA are concerned. They obviously enter the game 2-0, looking to pick up that third win and keep their perfect record alive. Cuba, on the other hand, entered the game without a win, so they really are trying to kickstart, jumpstart their 2019 FIBA World Cup qualification process. But plenty ahead of them. It's a 12-game process to get to the World Cup finals in China next year. First phase is a 6-game round robin in a 4-team group. Top 3 will make their way through to the second phase, and that's what Cuba will be fighting for, to make their way into that second phase. And if they can achieve that, that's a huge achievement for the Cuban team. They're ranked 61st in the world, 13th in the Americas, and you compare them with their hosts tonight, the USA, are first in the world. They're the highest ranked team on the planet with regards to basketball, and rightfully so. But that's all the action we have for you in the first half here in Santa Cruz. Plenty more action for you coming up in the second half. Make sure you come back and join me for the third and fourth quarter of World Cup qualifying action.
In addition to all the
Welcome back to Santa Cruz for the second half of this World Cup qualifier between the USA and Cuba. And as expected, the first half was dominated by the USA. They headed to the locker room leading this one 41-24. And it really was a bit of a masterclass of basketball handed to Cuba by the USA. Plenty to talk about. Silas leading all scorers with 10 points. And Williams leading the rebounding battle alongside Justice. So Williams for the USA with 7. Justice with 7 rebounds for Cuba. Justice also leading Cuba in scoring with 6 points also. This is the final game of what has been a very busy day on the international basketball scene. Dozens of games all around the world taking place today as 80 nations fight it out for 32 places at the World Cup finals in China next year. Now the USA are obviously hot favourites to make it to China. They've won the past 2 World Cups in Spain and Turkey. They'll want to make that the three-peat, the back-to-back-to-back in China in 2019. There are plenty of teams that stand in their way all over the world. Plenty of big games and plenty of teams making some waves on the international stage. But here in Santa Cruz, it's pretty plain sailing so far for the USA as they look to keep their perfect record alive. They lead by 17 at the half. There's 20 more minutes of action to go. Can Cuba rock the boat slightly and cause what would be one of the biggest upsets in recent basketball history by coming away from Santa Cruz with the win? If they are, they're going to have to pick up their game across the board. Shooting percentages not great in the opening half, shooting less than 10% from the perimeter and less than 35% from two-point range. Not where they need to be if they want to win this game. Also turned the ball over 10 times in that first half. They'll need to be a bit more protective of their possessions if they want to win this one. But some big defensive plays in that opening game gave the small Cuban contingent here in Santa Cruz plenty to cheer about for their team. So USA have been warming up for several minutes now, and the Cuban team are back on the hardwood to get themselves prepared for the third and fourth quarter. And what a big 20 minutes of basketball we have ahead of us here. At the moment, Group C is an interesting affair to look at. USA lead it with 2 wins, no losses. Puerto Rico now have 2 wins and 1 loss after beating Mexico earlier today in Mexico. And that's left Mexico with just 1 win and 2 losses. And at the moment, Cuba without a win and picking up 2 losses against Puerto Rico and Mexico in window 1. Now, obviously, this is the first game of window 2 for both these teams. They'll complete window 2 on Monday as Cuba will head back home to host Mexico, whilst the USA will have another home tie against Puerto Rico. On Monday. And then in window 3 at the end of June, beginning of July, Thursday 28th of June, Puerto Rico will host Cuba. Mexico will host the USA. And then on Sunday the 1st of July, the first qualification window will conclude with Puerto Rico hosting Mexico whilst Cuba take on the USA on home soil. So 20 more minutes left here in Santa Cruz. USA clearly lead this by 17 points. Cuba have shown glimmers of being competitive in this game. They really do need to string some of those glimmers together for a prolonged period of high-level basketball. If they can fight their way back into this one. However, as it stands, the USA are fully in the driver's seat and in control of this tie. As I said in the preview to this game, the USA really are number 1 in the world for a reason. They've appeared in the World Cup finals 17 times. They have an overall record of 123 wins and only 27 losses. That is an enviable record. They've got 5 golds, 3 silvers, 4 bronzes, and 2 of those 5 golds are from the past 2 World Cup finals in 2014 in Spain and in 2010 in Turkey. They want to continue that run going, and they know every game counts for them, and in this qualification phase that's absolutely true. 7 teams will qualify from the Americas region. The USA obviously hot favourites to qualify, but the qualification process is broken out into 2. 6 games in the first phase of qualification. Top 3 teams from each 4-team group go through to the second phase, where they'll meet another 3 teams, and then it's the top 3 teams from each of those 2 second phase groups that will go through, along with the the best placed 4th team. So the USA know that these results count, as all results from the first phase carry over into the second phase of qualification. So they want to make sure there are absolutely no slip-ups on their way to China. And under the guidance of head coach Van Gundy, you'd imagine that will be the case. The crowd are ready for the second half, and the players are back on the floor now, as we prepare to get the final 20 minutes of action underway here in Santa Cruz. And ball now into the hands of Drew. He hands it over to G. And good ball movement so far for the USA. G looking for options in front of him now. And finds Harrison with the ball, who hands it to Williams, who hands it straight back. Harrison takes an off balance too, and that beautiful sound of whipping string as he gets it to drop, and the USA start where they left off. Cuba now moves the ball well, but the shot comes up short, and Williams pulls down the rebound for the USA. Drew floats inside, and an easy right hand finger roll off the glass. Gives the USA another 2 points to their tally. Rivera now has it stripped away, but it's held onto by Molina, and there's a battle under the basket, and Eustace can't come away with it. The USA can, however, and Drew pulls up for the 3. A little bit heavy off the back of the iron and out, and Oliva grabs the rebound. Finds the Guzman, floats inside. Another tough play on the defensive end by the USA, and Guzman ends up back on the bench unintentionally. And the USA end up with possession again. G now hands off to Silas. Silas slightly off to the left with that perimeter shot. And Oliva slows it down, gives it up to Eustace. Eustace worked really hard in that first half for Cuba, and he's going to go again now as he tries to back his way to the basket, turns and fades. Always a difficult shot, the fade away, takes such precision on the release. And G almost loses the ball to Eustace. And USA slow it down now as the ball comes back out to the top to Drew. Now into the hands of Williams to Silas. Silas fakes the 3, takes the 3, drains the 3. And the USA have started the second half very similar to the way they started the first. That's a 7-0 run to start the third quarter, and Silas has taken himself up to 13 points personal now. Oliva takes a difficult shot at the top of the key. Can't connect with that, and the USA are going to no doubt make them pay as Drew floats to the basket, feeds it to Williams. Williams a little bit heavy though, and Eustace will grab the rebound for Cuba. Guzman now feeds Eustace in the post. Goes up against Williams, and the foul is called on Williams, and a very difficult matchup for Williams. He has the size and the strength, but my goodness me, Eustace is a man mountain. One of an old school looking big, just sheer body mass and determination gets him to the basket. 3 minutes gone now in the third quarter, and the USA have extended their lead out to 24 points. Coach Zaldivar won't be overly happy with the start to the third quarter for Cuba, but he'll be hoping they can make amends. Molina now drives inside, kicks it back to Olivar. Olivar tries to claim the foul off the officials. He needs to be careful, otherwise he'll be called for an unsportsmanlike with that kind of shooting form. And Drew floats inside. He's fouled by Olivar on his way to the basket. It's a foul on the floor, though, so it'll just be a sideline possession as Cuba commit their second team foul of the quarter. My mistake. It's just their first team foul, and the USA inbound the ball to Drew. Silas in the corner. Rattles it off the iron and away. Torres with the rebound, hands it off to Olivar. Torres now fakes the three. Comes back out. And Guzman calls for the screen, and Malin obliges. Guzman can't get the finger roll off the glass, though does everything right bar the finish. Silas drives to the basket, pulls up short. A little bit heavy with that. It's always a difficult jumper, and that's a tough rebound by G, and he recycles it back to the top. G sets a screen, but flashes to the basket hard. Drew trying to shake his man. Fades away, and the foul has been called. Drew with a slight limp there as he walks away from the scene of the foul. 4 minutes gone here in the third quarter, and the USA in full command of this one as Stockton comes back into the game. In fact, he will come back into the game for Drew. It's a provisional on the shooter. Purvis has also come back into the game for the USA as Drew connects with the first of his 2 free throws. Takes him up to 7 points personal, along with his 4 assists this evening. Can't get the second to go, though, and Cuba battle for the rebound, but it's into the hands of G, who just manages to keep it in court, and Purvis drives to the basket, and it really is a scramble. But what a way to finish a scramble. As Williams hammers it home with a Thomas hammers it home with a two-handed jam. Guzman now to Oliva. Drains the three, and they break the seal on their basket. It's taken them 4.5 minutes, very similar to how they started the first half, but they break it in style with a three from Olivar. 7 points for him, and great defense from Guzman to Olivar. Wide open for three. Is it back-to-back? It is back-to-back triples for Olivar. Osmel Olivar really lighting it up for Cuba. Brings the deficit down to 21 points, and Coach Van Gundy wants to have a conversation with his team about how they're leaving a shooter that wide open. He obviously proved it on the previous possession that he could shoot the ball, so why is he not being chased off the perimeter? You understand, as a coach, you kind of say to your players, let a shooter earn respect. Don't chase him off the perimeter until he can show he can shoot, but as soon as he shows, you need to chase him hard off that perimeter. Don't let him shoot open jumpers all day long. And that's the point Coach Van Gundy's getting across firmly now with his team. Whilst no doubt Giannis Zaldivar will be saying more of the same for his Cuban charges. He'll want them to be concentrating on locking down the defensive end, going back to where they found success in the first half, and primarily inside. They've not had a huge success from the outside. They're only shot 20% from the perimeter, and that includes the last 2 makes from Olivar. A little over 5 minutes left in the third quarter here in Santa Cruz, and Cuba come back onto the floor to play defense after hitting back-to-back triples against the USA. Olivar now leading up the Cuban scoring front. He's the first player to hit double digits. He's up to 10 as they drop into their 2-2-1 zone press again. And the ball is quickly advanced to Lee. Back to G now to Stockton. And they run a horns set on the offensive end. Stockton skips it inside to Thomas. Thomas now hands it to G, and G tries to get the shot up, but he's fouled as the shot clock expires. And the official almost trips over Olivar on her way to the table to signal the foul. And let's watch this. You can see the shot clock running down. They want to see when the foul was, and yep, absolutely the foul was with 1 second left on the shot clock. A get out of jail foul for Alonzo G. A little bit too heavy on the first attempt. He's only got 2 points so far, a little over 6 minutes of action. 4 rebounds to his name, though. He's a rough and tough player, is Alonzo G. Plays for the Sky Force in the G League. One of the older members of this USA roster, 30 years old. Molina now for Cuba, being guarded by Purvis. Hands it off to Guzman. And it's knocked off the foot of Guzman by a strong defensive presence from Lee, so it's going to be a USA ball on the side. 4:33 left in this third quarter, and the USA in dominant form as Ware comes back into the game for the USA. And Guzman will check out of the game for Cuba. He's in no hurry to make his way to the bench. Stockton now. Being guarded by Rodriguez, chasing him down. Stockton floats inside, waiting for the call. It'll be a sideline ball for the USA. It's inbounded to Stockton, who manages to find Purvis, who flashes to the basket. Strong move by Rodney Purvis. Takes the body contact and keeps the control, turns the corner well, and the Cuban defense in the form of Freddie Marin just unable to recover quick enough, and clips the head of Purvis, and Purvis connects with the 2, and he'll go to the line for the extra 1. Can't punish Cuba fully with that one though, but that basket extends the lead out to 24 points for the USA now. Foul is called. Purvis is caught with his hands in the cookie jar, trying to strip the ball away, but instead got the hands of Molina as he crossed the lane. Justiz now, back to Molina. That's a huge battle between Thomas and Justiz, and Thomas comes out on top of that one after the foul is called on Justiz. That's his second personal foul of the evening, and that tips Cuba over the edge now. So any foul, also obviously the offensive fouls, USA will go to the line for 2 shots. Stockton now. Purvis once again goes to the basket, skips it out to Ware. Ware goes to the corner to Lee. He's a little bit short, but Thomas will grab the rebound for him, so he floats inside. Purvis back to Lee for another 3. Not this time, and Ware flies through, but can only knock it out of bounds. So it's going to be a Cuban ball. One thing you have to love about the USA, you look in the background of the shot, and pretty much every offense, the USA bench are on their feet, cheering their team on. And they really do have a team ethos, which is impressive because these guys don't get an awful lot of time together, and the roster changes pretty much for each window of qualification. So no doubt Coach Van Gundy works hard on that team ethos. Justice now working hard here, but can only give it up to Stockton, who finds Ware for the two-handed jam. Rodriguez now hands it off to Justice, gets it back, looking for options in front of him. Manages to find the option, but unfortunately can't find the basket, and the USA come away in transition. It's a quick handoff to Purvis, who gets the luck of the roll, and the iron does him a favour with the ball dropping in, and the timeout is called there with 2:38 left in the third quarter. The USA now holding a commanding 28-point lead, 58-30 over Cuba, and it's plays like that that are getting the crowd hyped about the game here in Santa Cruz. Coach Van Gundy no doubt will just be saying more of the same. The USA have found some more rhythm now in this third quarter and have taken control fully once again of the game. Silas is leading them on the scoring front with 13 points. Williams leads them on the rebounding front with 11, but more surprisingly, he also leads them on the assist front, as he's got 5 assists to his name. For Cuba, it's Oliva who is leading the scoring with 10 points, and then Justiz has 10 points to go along with his 10 rebounds to go along with his 6 points. Still just over 12.5 minutes of action here in Santa Cruz. USA well on their way to securing their third qualification win of this 2019 FIBA World Cup, but I'm sure Coach Van Gundy's been around the block too often to become complacent, and he'll want to make sure that his guys push for the full 40 minutes. And on the opposite end of the floor, Johannes Zaldivar will be making sure that his team challenge USA for the full 40 minutes whilst developing and growing as a team themselves. Molina now at the top to Justiz. Back to Rodriguez. Smart ball movement by Cuba to Torres. Oh, way off with that one. Throws the brick up, and Valdez is called for the foul as he gets in a rebounding battle with Lee. Coach Zaldivar, not sure he has enough rabbits up his sleeves to pull this one out of the fire for Cuba. They're down by 28 with 12 minutes 21 to go against the world's best international basketball team, as ranked by FIBA. Lee now at the line for 2 shots. Short with the first. 0 from 4 from the field in his 10.5 minutes on the floor so far for Damian Lee. And obviously this is his home court, so the fans will no doubt want to see him score, and he obliges. And the home fans show some appreciation for his first point on the board. As Torres goes to the bench for Cuba, and Rivero comes back into the game. Rodriguez with the ball being guarded by Stockton. Trying to lose Stockton, and just slightly, but has to hand it off to Rivero. Rivero with the little shake, and instead Molina will take the 3, and my goodness me, Thomas works hard for that rebound and hands it off to Stockton, and Stockton just floats down the court, handing it off to Purvis. Purvis, a couple of jab steps to try and create some space, but it comes back to Ware. Ware will shoot the 3. Slightly off target with that one. Travis Ware, absolutely a perimeter threat, and that foul's going to get called on Travis Ware as Rivero looks to try and turn the corner in the low post. Just the third team foul of the quarter for the USA. So it's going to be a baseline possession for Cuba. Mencia now trying to feel Justiz, and Justiz, as he stumbles, there's no choice but to throw it away, and that's another turnover for Cuba. That's turnover number 14 for Cuba. Into the final 90 seconds now of the third quarter. And Stockton clearly fouled there by Roque, but officials don't call it. Stockton floats inside instead, teardrop off the glass, but kind of caught in two minds. Does he put it off the backboard, or does he go for the nothing but net shot? In the end, it's kind of a halfway house, it just bangs off the back of the iron. Ball goes into the low post now. And it's fed back out, unfortunately. That's an out of bounds. And another turnover. Turnover 15 for Cuba as Roque steps out of bounds with the ball. Not too sure how much the officials are going to let this go, but Stockton is being manhandled at the moment by Roque. They're not going to let that one go, though, as the foul is called on Freddie Marin. That's going to send Rashawn Thomas to the line for two shots. In and out with the first of his attempts. Played a little over 12.5 minutes so far this evening, Rashawn Thomas, and that's his 4th point of the game. More importantly, for a big man like him, he's pulled down 6 rebounds and takes USA up to 60 points whilst Cuba stay on 30. And Sia now brings it up for Cuba, almost loses the handle, but it comes back to Rivero, who hands it off to Roque. Falls for the screen. Marin obliges and shoots an awkward looking three and banks it home. I'm not too sure I heard the call of bank there, but 3 points are 3 points when you're struggling, and they'll be gratefully received by the Cuban team. Baseline drive, hands it off to Thomas. Beautiful play there by the USA, and that play really was made by the unselfish act of Damian Lee. He'd found the space on the baseline, but heads up play as he finds Thomas slicing to the basket for the easy two off the glass to the big man. And that's straight out of bounds off Mencia. Or has it come off a USA player? Looks like it's come off a USA player, so it'll still be a Cuba ball. But yeah, as a big man like Thomas, you really do appreciate your guards pulling those kind of plays where it's so unselfish and they reward you for your hard work as a big man at getting to the basket. Oh, another tough shot from the perimeter, and they get that one to go as well. End of the third quarter. That's a real strong way for Cuba to finish the third quarter. Mencia hitting a big three from the corner, and that reduces the deficit down to 26 points now. 62 to the USA, 36 to Cuba at the end of the third quarter. And back here in Santa Cruz, we're 3 quarters down, 1 quarter to go, and the USA fully in the driver's seat. They lead this one at 62-36 over Cuba after 3 quarters of action, and they really aren't dominating every aspect of the game so far. They won't be too happy with their 3-throw shooting, or potentially their 3-point shooting only being 24%, but over 50% from the 2-point. They'll be very, very pleased with. They've worked well as a team, and they've rotated the roster well, so majority of their players have seen some good minutes on the floor. Only really Braun, G and Willis that have seen limited minutes. Everyone else over 10 minutes of action already. Cuba have struggled to contain the threat of the USA throughout these 3 quarters. They've had some high points, but at the moment the USA really are a level above where Cuba are, as the USA look to not only qualify for this World Cup, but they will have their sights firmly set on the top step of the podium at the World Cup. So here we are for the final 10 minutes of action here in Santa Cruz. Mencia now looking to back his way to the basket, and good call by the officials as Harrison doesn't put the armbar on his man. He puts his hands onto his man, and straight away that's a foul. An easy call for the officials and an early team foul of the quarter for the USA. Olivar now into the low post again. Back out to Olivar. Can't quite control the ball first time, but the big hustle there by Rivero can't quite get it to pay off with the basket, mind you. Ware for 3. Comes up short with that one. And Thomas is going to be called for the foul as he gets in a battle with Marin for the rebound. Olivar will bring the ball over on the half once more for Cuba. Stockton constantly applying pressure on the guard, and an off-the-ball foul has been called. And that one's called on Aaron Harrison. That's his 2nd foul of the game. 3rd team foul of the quarter, and we're only 48 seconds in. That would be of concern for Coach Van Gundy. He'll be looking beyond today's game here in Santa Cruz against Cuba. He'll be looking ahead and wanting to tinker with this team, making sure they're working well together. Stockton pulls up for the long 2. Beautiful string music for David Stockton. Oliva now using a Horns offense set to try and free up some space. Pulls the trigger on a long 3. Awkward looking whip action to his shot. Hit 2 big triples in the last quarter. Was hoping to do the same again. Martinez now explodes to the basket. Kicks it back out. A little bit more energy about Cuba now as they go to the basket, and the foul is been called. We'll wait to see who that's called on. We presume it's been called on Thomas. Stockton limps off to the bench. Picked up a bit of a knock there as he's chasing through the passing lane. Doesn't look too comfortable as he gets back onto the bench, and no doubt will receive medical attention for whatever the knock is. Looks like it's his right ankle that he may have taken a knock to. But back on the floor, Freddie Marin is at the line for free throws. Can't get the second to drop, and with 8.5 minutes to play, the USA lead this one 64-37. Drew almost dribbled himself into a corner there, almost literally, to be fair. Now to Thomas, to Drew. Great ball movement. Lee floats inside, goes to the corner for Harrison, who obliges with the triple. Beautiful team offense there from the USA. Really fluid, slick ball movement. Finds Harrison wide open for the triple. Olivar now uses the screen set by Rivero. Rivero fakes the 3. Gives it up to Mencia, who will take the jumper, but Ware will grab the rebound for the USA, and the USA about out in transition. Harrison trying to shake and bake his defender, and Mencia manages to stay in front of him. Enough to put him off the shot anyway. Cuba with the rebound now. Martinez, almost breaks the ankles of his defender, but the officials have called it as an illegal play. Obviously a push off there to free himself up into space. If he hadn't, that'd have been a great stop on a dime move from Martinez. Lee will head to the bench with Thomas. as Braun comes back into the action. Drew now goes long. Oh, floats the pass and the throw down for Ware. That's too easy for the USA. Harrison with the alley-oop pass to Ware for the two-handed jam. Martinez now back to Oliver. Calls for the screens and doesn't use it. Kicks it back out to Martinez instead. It's good penetration by Cuba. And they make it pay this time. Mencia with the bucket off the glass. And it's a smart move by Cuba, trying to penetrate and kick. Very difficult against the USA, who recover well on the defensive end. And Oliver just beating all hands down there by the trickery and hand speed of Larry Drew. And that's going to send Oliver to the bench. And Rodriguez will come in to replace him. Drew's hand speed just a little bit too quick there. Plenty of tricks in his backpack. Ware now hands the ball off, gets it back. Goes to Harrison. Harrison looks to drive the baseline, floats to the right hand, comes up short though. Any which way, he's going to head to the line for 2 free throws. Harrison connects with the first from the line. Takes his personal tally up to 8 points. He's got 3 rebounds and 3 assists to go along with that. It's been a strong night for Aaron Harrison. Mencia now will advance the ball for Cuba. Being guarded by Harrison. Mencia will go back to the basket now. Looks like he wants to line it up. Squares up instead. That's going to be a blocking foul. Harrison tried to sell the charge, but did a poor job of it, and the officials call him for the blocking foul. So that will send Marin to the line for 2 shots. Sorry, Mencia to the line for 2 shots. Frankie Mencia has currently got 5 points, 3 boards to his name in tonight's game. That takes him up to 6 points now. Back to the line for the second of his 2 free throws. And it's nothing but net on that one. Takes the USA lead down to 30 points now. Entering the final 6 minutes of action here in Santa Cruz. Nice change of pace and direction for Purvis. Just puts the Jets on slightly, and that change of speed opened the lane up for him. Couldn't get the basket to go, but he's earned himself a trip to the charity stripe for 2 shots. Cuba will make a change as Torres comes back into the game. And Purvis connects with the first of his 2 free throws. Takes his tally up to 9 points personal now. In and out on the second, and Rivero grabs the rebound for Cuba. Hands it off to Rodriguez. Uses the Horns offense, and no patience from Rodriguez there, so the Horns offense really was futile. And Torres will take a shot from the corner, and there's no joy for Cuba from there, and Drew pulls the rebound down for the USA. Pulls the trigger on a 3. He's short on that one, and Braun battles hard on the boards, but no joy for him as Martinez scoops things up for Cuba. Torres now inside to Rivero. Rivero with a really awkward looking shot. Torres goes after the rebound, and it's come off the hands of Ware, so it's going to be a Cuba ball on the baseline. USA will make a change as they bring Williams back into the game. Harrison will go to the bench. Lee also comes into the action. A little over 5 minutes to play in Santa Cruz, and USA will feel content with the fact that they've got the job done. They want to run through their rotations. They'll want to work on fine-tuning some of the details in their offense and defense. And it's short from Rodriguez. And from Cuba's point of view, they're going to take the next 5 minutes really to work themselves quite hard against one of the world's best basketball teams in the USA. Into the low post now for Williams. Goes up against Rivero, goes high off the glass and gets the two. Good move there by Devin Williams. A little bit of patience and vision. Rivero with the ball at the top. Looked like a travel, but gets away with it. Mencia now tries to use a Torres screen. Beautiful little hesitation. Buys the lane for him. And gets himself a two off the glass. Drew wades away Lee and waits for Willis to come up and set the screen on the pick and roll. Willis picks it up. It goes inside to Williams. Williams with a left-hand hook shot, but just because he was fading away, there wasn't really enough on that one to get it over the front of the iron and in. Ball now comes into Rivero. It's almost knocked away. Oh, beautiful no-look pass from Rivero to Torres. But Willis and Williams combined for some big defensive effort there to stop Torres getting to the basket. What a shame, though, because that was a great no-look pass from Rivero. USA now with a 31-point lead. 3:48 left on the game clock, and Stockton's back into the game, which will be a relief for the USA fans, as he obviously left the game hobbling slightly on a right ankle injury previously. Willis open for three. Comes up short on that one. Grabs his own rebound as Cuba were concentrating on the paint, but he can't get the second shot to go either. Still scoreless. He's 0 from 4 so far on his shots. Tough move by Mencia. Gets the two off the glass. And Cuba will make sure they get plenty of highlights in this final 3 minutes 12 of action. They'll want to leave the game on a high. Stockton now being chased out by Rivero to Willis. Drives inside and flushes it with one hand. That's a way to get your first basket in a USA jersey. Drives down the lane and throws it down with a big right hand. Rivero now into Torres. Torres, quick spin move, gets Williams off his feet, but unfortunately travels in the process. Sign for me, always of a good coach, never content. His team's leading by 31 points, and there's still something that's griping him, something that he wants his team to be doing better. And into the game for Cuba comes Valdez. Out goes Mencia. Roque's also come into the game as Rodriguez goes to the bench. And Coach Zaldivar is using this opportunity to give everyone plenty of international experience. Stockton is absolutely terrorizing Roque there. And Purvis pulls the trigger on a long two. Oh, that's just beautiful form from Purvis. Long shot by Valdez, my goodness me, it's a big, big three bomb. Lee now feeds Williams in the post. Is he going to go work against Rivero? Looks like he is. Loses the handle though and steps out of bounds with it. That's great defense by Rivero. He's giving up a fair few pounds against the American big man, but stood his ground, took the impact on the chest, and Williams had nothing more to give, so steps out of bounds. Great play by Cuba there. Roque turns the corner, hands it to Torres. Torres will pull the trigger on a long two. Slightly off to the left, and two USA players fighting for the rebound. Lee ultimately claims it. Purvis now feeds Williams in the post. Williams finds a flashing Lee, who throws up a circus shot as he falls to the ground. He'll get 2 free throws for his efforts. 1:34 left on the game clock. USA have secured a comfortable win here in Santa Cruz, leading this one 78-48. 90 seconds left, but that's plenty of time for Coach Van Gundy to tinker with his structure, give a few guys a few more seconds of international basketball experience. And the same will be said for Coach Zaldivar for Cuba. Both those coaches now will have half an eye on Monday's games, as Cuba will take on Mexico back in Cuba, and the USA will have another home game against Puerto Rico. Both those games huge for both these teams here tonight. USA will want to continue their winning streak. Tonight's win will move them to 3-0 in the group and clearly top the table, whereas it will leave Cuba 0-3, still looking for that much sought after first win in World Cup qualification. And they'll be hoping Monday's game at home to Mexico could be that first win. Mexico went down to a strong Puerto Rican side this evening, so the Puerto Rico-USA game should be quite a tough battle on Monday, and the USA out at the races, and an easy 2 points for Rodney Purvis. Cuba now in the hands of Torres, and he throws it away as Willis knocks it away. Back to Purvis, back to Willis, and he's going to kick it to the outside for Lee. He's short, but it's off the hands of Valdez, so it's going to be a USA ball on the baseline. Just under a minute left of action here in today's FIBA World Cup qualifiers, and we've had an absolutely huge day of basketball around the globe. Dozens of games going underway, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of fans around the world enjoying basketball, either in the arena or at home on their sofas watching this amazing action take place. Big shot from Purvis from outside, can't get that one to go, and Cuba will come away with the rebound. But what a change this new structure for international basketball has made. Fans are relishing the chance to see their favourite players take to the floor more often. It really has breathed new life into international basketball as Stockton battles his way to the basket there. Obviously, we've completed the first games of this window. Second games to come up over the next 3 days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And plenty more action to watch. And that would conclude the second window. But obviously the first phase isn't fully concluded until we've had our third window. And that third window runs from Thursday, the 28th of June, all the way through to Monday, the 2nd of July. And there'll be a ton more action of international basketball for you in that window as well. So this signals the halfway point of the first phase of qualification for both these teams here. On track for Team USA, they have 3 wins and haven't recorded a loss yet. Cuba, it really is back to the drawing board, and they're going to hope that the next 3 games go very differently to their first 3 games. As the final shot of the game is going to come from Braun, but he stepped out of bounds, so it won't count anyway. But that's all we have for you here in Santa Cruz. The USA cruised their way through to an 84-48 win over Cuba in Santa Cruz at the home of the Santa Cruz Warriors, and that takes USA firmly to the top of the table in Group C. They now sit with a 3-0 record. Behind them is Puerto Rico with a 2-1 record. Mexico sit with a 1-win, 2-loss record, and Cuba prop the table up with no wins and 3 losses at the end of the third game within this first qualification phase. As I said, both these teams will move on to games on Monday. Cuba take on Mexico in Cuba, and the USA have another home game against Puerto Rico. And those 2 games there will really determine the fates, potentially, of how Group C is going to shape out ultimately. But we've had a great 40 minutes of action here. The USA have taken control and had some great performances across the board, and that really has led to a dominant win for the USA. Some of the statistics for you there: not great perimeter shooting by either team. The USA will be happy that they scored 26 out of 48 interior shots. They also won the rebounding battle 54-42 and 24 assists. I'm sure Coach Van Gundy will be happy with that. That said, 12 assists for Cuba's not a bad total either. What is a bad total, though, is the 19 turnovers for Cuba. If they want to win a game, they're going to have to control and protect their possession a little bit more preciously than 19 turnovers suggests they have this evening. That said, a lot of them were forced by some tenacious defense from USA. And here are some of your leaders. The USA scoring was led by Rodney Purvis with 14 points. Devin Williams led the rebounding with 12 and the assists with 6. Cuba's scoring was led by Mencia with 11. Justiz grabbed the most rebounds with 10 and Guzman had 3 assists. And that's one of your biggest issues there. Your big man Justiz giving the ball up 6 times, 6 turnovers for Justiz. They'll need to do something about that and protect the ball an awful lot better. But here's your final score in Santa Cruz. USA 84, Cuba 48. And the USA basketball machine keeps on rolling as they look to complete the three-peat of World Championship titles. They won in 2010 in Turkey. They won gold as well in 2014 in Spain. And their vision is to pick up the gold next September in China. And it's difficult to see which team will step in their way to stop that from happening. Thanks for joining me here in Santa Cruz at the home of the Santa Cruz Warriors. We've had a great 40 minutes of international basketball action, and your final score is the USA 84, Cuba 48. We hope you've enjoyed all the action here, and we'll no doubt see you back soon.